After Hulk Hogan's body was cremated, the sightings began. From people claiming to see ghostly clouds shaped like him to others insisting they spotted him driving cars, these are some of the most unbelievable moments where people said Hulk Hogan was somehow caught on camera after his officially recorded death. War Games Masked Man. Our third entry takes us into actual WWE programming and the genuine confusion over whether Hulk Hogan somehow made a secret appearance. On November 29, 2025, just 5 months after Hogan's death, WWE held their annual Survivor Series War Games event in Vancouver, Canada. During the men's War Games match, something completely unexpected happened. A masked figure climbed the cage, interfered in the match by delivering a curb stomp to CM Punk, and helped Braun Breaker's team secure the win before disappearing into the night. The identity of this mystery man instantly became the center of intense speculation. One ex-user, BallnarOD825, posted a theory that sent part of the wrestling community into chaos. Hogan's death was a work, and he was returning. They are removing Drew from the men's War Games match and plan to replace him with Hogan. The post even claimed to have a mysterious, well-connected source. No such source was ever proven or identified, but the idea played straight into wrestling's long history of scripted fake-outs and shocking returns, making some fans believe Hogan's death had been the ultimate setup for a massive comeback at one of WWE's biggest shows. The truth, however, turned out to be far less dramatic. Multiple wrestling news outlets, including PWI Insider, Fightful, and Sports Illustrated, confirmed that the masked man was Austin Theory, who had been out with an injury but was brought back for this surprise moment after plans involving Seth Rollins had to change due to a shoulder injury. The entire theory completely fell apart under basic scrutiny because the curb stomp was never one of Hogan's moves. It was a signature of Seth Rollins. Second, Hogan's well-documented health problems would have made stepping into a wrestling ring basically impossible. And third, WWE's official sources, along with Paul Heyman himself, denied any involvement from Hogan, though Heyman stayed in kayfabe when asked about the masked man's real identity. Bleacher Report even described the mystery attacker angle as laughably bad in their post-event review, calling out WWE's handling of the storyline, but none of their criticism nor any legitimate report suggested that Hulk Hogan had anything to do with the segment. The public supermarket sighting. We now reach our second most notable entry, a claim that sounded more ordinary and everyday compared to the other supposed sightings. On November 29, 2025, a user named M. Flemster, whose bio simply read, "Goofing," posted a message saying, "Hulk Hogan is actually alive though, I saw him at Publix on Wednesday." This would place the alleged sighting on November 26, 2025, roughly 4 months after Hogan's confirmed death. Publix, for those who don't know, is a Florida-based supermarket chain found throughout the state where Hogan had lived. The claim sounded believable at first because it was so normal. No moon bases, no secret missions, just a man supposedly buying groceries. But that sense of realism fell apart instantly. The post offered absolutely no proof. There was no picture, no video, no specific Publix location, no time of day, and no description of what Hogan was wearing or doing. It was simply a sentence on a screen with no way to verify or investigate it. The engagement numbers told the whole story: 3 likes, 0 reposts, 0 replies, and 195 views. Even by the standards of low-attention Hogan conspiracy posts, this one barely made a ripple. What made researchers even more doubtful was the post's context. It appeared as a reply to a NodQ.com article discussing Ric Flair's controversial comments about what he believed contributed to Hogan's death. The juxtaposition of a serious discussion about mortality with a casual claim of a supermarket sighting created an ironic contrast that suggested the entire thing was meant as humor rather than an actual eyewitness account. Interestingly, Hogan did have a documented connection to Publix. A 2018 Reddit thread mentioned his love for their chicken tenders, but this only showed how fan knowledge could be used to build believable-sounding yet completely made-up sightings. The Publix claim also revealed something about how conspiracy theories operate geographically. Because Hogan had truly lived in Florida for decades, any supposed sighting in the state carried a built-in sense of believability that international claims did not. He had been photographed at local events, including a karaoke judging contest just days before his death, which made the supermarket story feel almost convincing if you ignored the small detail that he had been cremated. Of course, the heavenly cloud formation. And now we reach our number 1 entry, the most viral, most talked about, and most emotionally loaded supposed post-death sighting of Hulk Hogan. On August 5, 2025, During Hogan's funeral service at Calvary Chapel, Clearwater, something appeared in the sky that captured the attention of millions. As his daughter Brooke Hogan delivered her eulogy, speaking about her father's larger-than-life legacy, an attendee named Mike Rivera, a longtime Hogan fan and host of the Hulkamania podcast, looked up and saw something remarkable. The clouds had taken on a shape that looked like a clear image of Hulk Hogan's profile, complete with his iconic mustache, his trademark bandana, and what seemed to be his classic Hulk-up pose with a flexed arm. Rivera took a photo with his iPhone 14 Pro at exactly 12:32 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The image was time-stamped, GPS verified to the church's location, and captured in RAW format. By 1:15 p.m., he had posted it on X with a caption, "Hulk saying what you gonna do from the heavens? Hulk Hogan, a heaven sign." The internet erupted instantly. Within hours, the post had gathered more than 500,000 likes. TMZ covered the story the next day with the headline, "Hulk Hogan's Ghost in the Clouds." Eerie photo from funeral shocks fans. ESPN and the Daily Mail soon followed with their own reports. TikTok edits pairing the cloud image with Hogan's theme song, Real American, pulled in more than 300 million views. Brooke Hogan herself reposted the photo, writing, "Dad's watching over us. I felt him there." Linda Hogan, his ex-wife, called it a divine confirmation, and during an interview with Piers Morgan, Ric Flair added his own flair by saying, "That's Hollywood Hogan from above. Woo." But naturally, science had a completely different explanation. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a meteorologist with NOAA, told CNN, "This was pure pareidolia, the psychological tendency for people to see familiar shapes, especially faces, in random patterns like clouds." A report from the National Weather Service Tampa Bay noted conditions of 85 degrees, 60% humidity, and 1,015 MB pressure with southeast winds, a combination that often produces classic cumulus cloud formations. NASA atmospheric models suggest that about 1 in every 10,000 clouds naturally forms a shape that resembles a human figure. Snopes eventually rated the event as plausible but natural, meaning the cloud really did form that shape and the photo really was taken, but it was not supernatural proof of Hogan's ghost watching over his own funeral. What set this entry apart from every other sighting on the list was its emotional impact. Unlike the jokes about truck drivers or lunar colonies, this cloud formation brought real comfort to grieving fans and family members. WWE even included the image in their official tribute video, acknowledging how deeply it resonated while avoiding any claims of the supernatural. Whether you believed it was a sign from beyond or just a lucky atmospheric coincidence, the Hogan cloud became the defining image of his posthumous legacy, a final Hulk-up from the heavens themselves. The truck driver transformation. We begin our journey into the bizarre with what might be one of the most creative survival theories the wrestling community has ever produced. On August 3, 2025, only 10 days after Hogan's confirmed passing, a social media user calling himself Gonzo Trucker, who described himself in his bio as a Hall of Fame trucker, posted something that sent shockwaves through certain corners of the internet. The message was bold, simple, and completely outrageous in its claim. It read, "Hulk Hogan faked his death and is now driving a truck." But here's where it got interesting. This wasn't just another random statement thrown into the online void. No, this particular post came with a photograph, an actual image showing a muscular man dressed from head to toe in what looked exactly like Hulk Hogan's classic wrestling gear, complete with a signature bandana, the iconic mustache, and the red and yellow colors of Hulkamania, standing proudly next to a blue semi-truck. Reactions poured in instantly. One user replied with, "Knew it," while another joked that it might be Hogan's brother he always talked about. The post gathered 82 likes, 7 reposts, and sparked a thread of comments that, even though clearly meant as humor for most people, still added another layer to the growing mythology surrounding Hogan's supposed survival. The photograph itself actually dated back several years, appearing in Reddit threads and TikTok videos as early as 2022, where it had already been identified as a Georgia-based truck driver who happened to be an extremely committed Hogan cosplayer. The man's build was noticeably slimmer than Hogan's, and a closer look revealed that the tattoos didn't match either. On top of that, the idea that a 71-year-old man battling leukemia, recovering from major surgery, and living with atrial fibrillation could somehow take on the physically demanding lifestyle of long-haul trucking pushed the limits of believability past their breaking point. Hogan had been photographed just days before his death looking visibly weak, making any strenuous activity nearly impossible. The bus conversation mystery. Moving on to our 9th entry, we arrive at what might be the single most frustrating kind of so-called evidence imaginable, the second-hand anecdote. On August 13, 2025, about 3 weeks after Hogan's passing, a social media user shared a post that perfectly illustrated the type of rumor spreading that took over during this strange post-mortem period. The claim was simple but infuriatingly vague. The user said that while riding public transportation, they overheard two strangers talking about how Hulk Hogan had supposedly faked his death. And that was the entire story. No location was mentioned. No time was given. No details about the speakers were offered. No audio recording was made. It was, in every possible sense, the textbook definition of hearsay, impossible to confirm and completely lacking substance. Yet this tiny, anonymous bit of eavesdropping captured the mood of the moment perfectly. In the weeks after Hogan's death, radio host Bubba the Love Sponge had thrown out hints on his podcast that something about the situation seemed suspicious, though he never provided actual proof. Brooke Hogan had publicly expressed shock over her father's undisclosed leukemia diagnosis and suggested there may have been people in his inner circle who took advantage of him. The ground was perfectly prepared for this kind of speculation. What made this claim so representative of the wider trend was its complete normality. Unlike theories involving moon bases or global assassination plots, the idea of two random passengers casually discussing a celebrity conspiracy on public transit felt almost believable, which ironically made it more effective as misinformation. The official 911 dispatch audio from Hogan's cardiac arrest had already been released, providing clear evidence of his medical emergency, yet whispers overheard on a bus somehow carried more influence for certain believers. The Putin sneak attack plot. Now we arrive at what may be the most wildly imaginative theory to emerge from this entire wave of posthumous speculation. On August 15, 2025, a user named Jeffium, who had previously described himself as Jeff the Magnanimous, posted a claim so outrageous and so completely detached from anything resembling reality that it almost deserved recognition for its creativity alone. The post read, "My sources tell me that Hulk Hogan faked his death and will sneak attack Putin on Trump's signal to drop the big leg in a bid for peace." Let that sink in for just a moment. According to this entirely unsupported narrative, the 71-year-old wrestling icon, who had been fighting leukemia, recovering from major surgery, and living with atrial fibrillation, had supposedly staged his own death as part of a grand geopolitical mission. The plan, as described, involved infiltrating Russia and performing his signature move, the atomic leg drop, on Vladimir Putin, all on Donald Trump's command as part of a bizarre attempt to achieve world peace. The claim received exactly 3 likes and 107 views, suggesting that even the most conspiracy-hungry corners of the internet weren't quite ready to accept this particular storyline. The reference to Trump's signal was clearly a play on Hogan's real-life endorsement of the former president at the 2024 Republican National Convention, where he famously tore off his shirt in classic Hulkamania fashion. But aside from that thin thread connecting the claim to reality, the entire theory lived in a universe of pure fantasy. The geopolitical angle was especially interesting because it showed how Hogan's public political stance had been absorbed into the broader conspiracy narrative. His outspoken support for conservative causes made him an easy target for people projecting their own political fantasies onto him. The idea of a 71-year-old wrestler carrying out covert military operations against a nuclear superpower did nothing to deter those who wanted a story that matched their imagination. Clearwater police had already clarified that there was no evidence of foul play in Hogan's death, and yet we somehow ended up with theories involving international espionage. The gender thread quip. Our 7th entry takes us into unexpectedly controversial territory, showing how Hogan's supposed post-death sightings managed to collide with completely unrelated internet arguments. On August 21, 2025, author J.K. Rowling posted a strongly worded critique of Germany's Self-Determination Act, sharing a screenshot of a news story about a convicted neo-Nazi who had legally changed gender markers. The post picked up more than 78,000 likes and triggered heated debate across the political spectrum. But hidden within the 2,500 replies, one user named Urusai Makes Bad Videos, whose bio read, "I make poorly made videos in poor taste," chimed in with a response that had absolutely no connection to the topic. The reply simply said, "So Hulk Hogan faked his own death." And that was it. No context was provided, no video was attached, and nothing explained how this bizarre claim connected to the original discussion, with the post gathering only 66 views and a single like, yet it revealed something fascinating about the cultural moment. Analysts suggested the user had noticed a superficial resemblance between the man in the news photograph mustache and sunglasses and Hulk Hogan's iconic look, and rather than engage in the heated political debate, they derailed it. With absurdist humor, essentially a non sequitur meant to mock the seriousness of the situation, Major outlets like the BBC, Washington Post, and DW covered the controversy but made no mention of Hogan, showing there was never any real connection beyond one commenter injecting wrestling mythology, yet this highlighted how Hogan's death had become a cultural reference point that could be invoked anywhere, with the wrestling community's self-referential humor turning even real-world political. Crises into kayfabe, as German authorities issued an arrest warrant after the individual fled the country, yet internet commenters were more focused on comparing mustaches to a deceased wrestler, leading into Entry 6, the face-shaving conspiracy, a surreal theory drawing on Hogan's wrestling history to humorously suggest his survival. On August 26, 2025, a user named KingSmokes619, who described himself as a union carpenter, motorcycle enthusiast, patriot, and anti-fascist, posted a message in all capital letters claiming that Hulk Hogan had faked his death by shaving his face, accompanied not by any photograph but by a laughing Leonardo DiCaprio gif from The Wolf of Wall Street, a common meme used to mock absurdity. The joke tapped into a real piece of Hogan's wrestling history back in October 1995, during a WCW Monday Nitro episode. Kevin Sullivan, as part of the Dungeon of Doom storyline, had shaved Hogan's iconic mustache, one of the rare times he appeared clean-shaven publicly, and this post humorously suggested Hogan had done the same to become unrecognizable and fake his death, with a DiCaprio gif serving as the punchline to highlight the absurdity. What made it especially notable was its context, appearing as a reply to a 2023 workout video by Marjorie Taylor Greene, entirely unrelated to Hogan, adding layers of randomness and absurdist humor. While Hogan himself had noted in interviews that losing his mustache felt like losing part of his identity, having never gone without it since high school. The wrestling community had long treated Hogan's facial hair as sacred, making the 1995 shaving incident genuinely shocking at the time, and for hardcore fans, the idea that he could simply shave and disappear unrecognized was actually more absurd than most other theories, since everyone would recognize those 24-inch pythons regardless of facial hair. The Moon Colony Theory. We now reach what may be the most spectacularly ridiculous theory on our list. On September 12, 2025, a user named Telford01, who went by Stu and whose bio read only "Goo Finn," posted a claim so wildly absurd it almost deserves an award for creativity, stating, "It's clear he faked his own death and is living on the moon with JFK, Tupac, and Hulk Hogan." Interestingly, the post was made in reference to something else entirely. It appeared in a thread about conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who had been assassinated on September 10, 2025, but the Hogan reference was tacked on as an afterthought, lumped together with other famous supposed death fakers to form an imaginary lunar colony of celebrities who had staged their own deaths. The engagement numbers speak for themselves: 4 likes, 0 reposts, and 313 views, clearly indicating it was meant as a joke, a punchline, and a satirical commentary on the tendency of conspiracy theorists to claim that anyone famous who dies has secretly gone into hiding. The original Charlie Kirk thread had drawn major attention, with various conspiracy theories swirling around the circumstances of his death, and the Moon Colony post was clearly mocking this tendency by taking it to its most absurd extreme. Of course, there was no video, no photograph, no evidence of any kind. This claim existed purely as satirical fiction, showing how the internet processes multiple celebrity deaths by retreating into absurdist humor, and the inclusion of JFK and Tupac was particularly telling, as both have long been the subjects of persistent survival conspiracies. So placing Hogan alongside these legendary supposed fakers both mocked the conspiracy mindset and inadvertently elevated Hogan to a mythological status, much like the medbed conspiracy theories claiming JFK was secretly alive, demonstrating how enduring these narratives can become once embedded in cultural discourse. The Young Thug car sighting. Our fourth entry introduces what appeared to be actual video evidence, though, as is often the case, the truth proved far more mundane. On September 29, 2025, a user named RDJ Fagademics shared a post claiming, "Hulk Hogan recently spotted in a car listening to that new Young Thug. He faked his own death," accompanied by a video showing a man who looked like Hogan in the driver's seat of a yellow Dodge Ram, wearing a green shirt, bandana, and sunglasses, nodding along to music on the radio. To believers, it seemed like damning proof. How could footage exist of Hogan enjoying music if he was supposedly deceased? But the clip quickly fell apart under scrutiny, as wrestling fans immediately recognized it from a 2007 episode of Hogan Knows Best. In Season 4, Episode 4, titled Hogan's Extreme Makeover, Hogan is shown enthusiastically listening to Young Jeezy's song I Love It, repeatedly replaying it while driving. The scene had become a beloved meme within wrestling communities, often shared with captions about how it lived rent-free in fans' heads, and the new Young Thug audio in the 2025 post was simply edited over the original clip, replacing young Jeezy's track to create the illusion of recent footage. The MTV logo in the corner and the fact that the original clip had been uploaded to YouTube in 2014 with millions of views were obvious giveaways, and remarkably, another user had predicted this exact phenomenon 3 days earlier, posting, "Somebody's going to paste that Young Thug song over the Hulk Hogan Jeezy video, and we're all going to laugh a little too hard," showing just how predictable internet culture had become, as the Jeezy clip was so iconic and frequently remixed that its use as fake evidence of Hogan's survival was almost inevitable, with multiple TikTok accounts sharing variations from 2022 to 2025, each adding their own musical twist, and although the post received only 52 views and 1 like, suggesting most viewers immediately recognized the deception, it still served as a clear example of how easily old footage could be repurposed for conspiracy content.